Born and raised in Dundas, Ontario, our next guest is a professional golfer and a proud Canadian. This Kent State alum clinched his first PGA Tour win at the RSM Classic in 2016 and hasn't looked back since. Here to share some of his incredible sporting accomplishments and travel stories is professional golfer and Team RBC Ambassador, Mackenzie Hughes. Thanks for joining me here on the Northern Take. Mackenzie, how are you today, man?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mackenzie, where in the world do we find you today, man?
I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it is currently pretty nice, a little chilly, but nothing like my Canadian friends and family are experiencing right now. So all things considered, I'm in a pretty good place.
Well, North Carolina is a great place to be, but I know that you grew up in Dundas, Ontario, just outside of Hamilton. Dundas is not what you would call a metropolis by any stretch of the imagination. Did that small town upbringing give you a sense of freedom growing up?
I think so. I mean, you really know people in the town, and it's a friendly atmosphere everywhere you go. And I think growing up in a town like that kind of made me who I am today, and the people around me kind of shape who you are. And I wouldn't do it any other way. I would love to go back and see a lot of friends and family right now. And I know we can't because all the stuff going on around the world, but looking forward to getting back there soon.
Well, we share that in common, man. Our small town upbringing has fundamentally shaped who we are and how we see ourselves in this world. Another thing that you and I share in common, that I'm sure we share in common with a great many of our listeners right now, is the fact that we both wanted to be NHLers while we were growing up. Is that a true story, that you dreamed, like I did, of playing in the show one day?
I did dream of playing in the show. It was short-lived while I was still the same size as all the kids my age.
Me too.
And then I remember all my friends getting really big, and I stayed really small. And I thought, man, this might not be for me anymore. And so the couple of years there where I was, hoping and dreaming of one day playing in the NHL, those were quickly squashed when I was also squashed into the boards many times. So my attention quickly shifted to golf once I was 12 or 13, and I was hooked right away once I started playing, and haven't looked back since.
But how did you find this particular sport and this passion for golf?
So my parents were the ones that kind of guided me towards golf, and it was really by chance. They had just started to play. I was about 7 years old, and they started to play the game. They were learning the game as well. And just one afternoon, it was babysitter or golf, and they decided to bring me along. I had a cut-down driver and a cut-down putter. I would tee off on the hole and pick my ball up and throw it on the green and try and knock it in the hole. And ever since then, I've been hooked, and I still haven't found a better way to play the game than that. Teeing off, picking the ball up, and putting it on the green. I think that's probably the best way to play the game. But they don't allow that on the PGA Tour anymore. So just a kind of a neat way I started, kind of by chance. My parents brought me out, and it's been a love of mine ever since.
So once you had sort of discovered the game, were you taking chip and putt clinics? Were you part of the course and the club?
So the club that my parents belonged to, Dundas Valley Golf and Curling Club, they had a 9-hole executive par 3 course. So I started at that golf course, which they've actually since named after me, which is very cool.
No way.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun to have that obviously in your back pocket as a golf course that you grew up at, that was named after you. But it was a great way to start. All the holes were under 150 yards, so as you can imagine, you'd get pretty good, with your shorter clubs, and you'd get good around the greens and chipping and putting, and that was really the groundwork for making me the player I was as I got a bit bigger and into my teenage years.
Were you hungry right from the get-go, or did your parents push you and be like, "Come on, Mackenzie, go practice"?
There was none of that. I was very self-driven from a young age. When I was 8, 9, 10, I'd spend basically sun up to sundown at the golf course, and I was the one waking up in the mornings and having my parents drive me to the course, and they'd drop me off, and they wouldn't come back till basically dinner time or the sun was going down. And so it was basically where I spent my entire childhood. That was where I was going to do my socializing, was on the golf course. And being around the kids my age, trying to beat them in putting contests, chipping contests, and trying to get a little better.
That's awesome. Every parent's dream, a self-motivated child that is playing non-contact sports and is all about it.
That's right.
Awesome way to grow up.
For sure.
When you were growing up, who did you watch on television that you wanted to emulate, that you wanted to be just like?
I would say that the first golfer I looked up to or admired was Tiger Woods. So that was around the 2000, 2001 mark. I was just getting to the age 10, 11 where you are understanding things a bit more and really grasping what certain people are doing and the magnitude of what they're doing. And I think around that time, what Tiger was doing was pretty unbelievable. And you can't not notice what's going on in the golf world when that's happening. But as I got a bit older there, I was 12 when Mike Weir won the Masters. And that was another moment for me where a guy like this from small town Ontario can win the Masters and do what he's doing on TV. That was really neat for me to see and give me that inspiration to know, if I work really hard, one day maybe that's possible for me. And, we're still working on that part of the dream. And there's still, I think, lots of great years ahead. So hopefully one day I'm slipping on one of those jackets as well.
I see it in my mind's eye. Can you picture it in your mind's eye when you start to think about the green jacket, that course, that experience, watching and having seen them put that jacket on Mike Weir? Can you see yourself in that moment?
I can. If you're not seeing yourself doing that and having the belief that you can do it, then I know why play. I think that even if a dream is super out there and maybe really tough to accomplish, I just don't see why you wouldn't see yourself doing it. And I know for myself, I'm a big believer in visualization, and I often see myself slipping that jacket on.
What makes you love the game of golf?
I think for me, it's the solidarity at times. I've always been good at being alone. And when you play golf, when you practice golf, oftentimes you are alone. You're alone with your thoughts. You're alone in just quiet, peaceful, outdoor nature. You go play 9 holes and you're the only one on the golf course sometimes, and it's just, you hear the birds chirping, the wind blowing through the trees, and it's just you and the golf ball and your thoughts. And I've always loved that peacefulness of it and being to yourself and trying to figure things out. I love that every day is different, every course is different, every shot is different. It's that pursuit of trying to be perfect, which is not possible.
Now, your first big win was in 2011 at the Canadian Amateur Championship. Do you remember what that felt like in the moment of recognition that you had accomplished what you set out to do there that weekend?
Yeah, that was my first real big win, and the feeling was euphoria, just ecstatic to have done something that for a long time you don't know is possible until you do it. You dream of yourself doing it, you imagine it, but then once you've done it, it's a whole another level of kind of believing and that confidence. And I still remember that feeling and what it was like when I tapped in that final putt and knew I had won. And what came with that win was something out of dreams and fairy tales, because I got to play in the Canadian Open the following summer at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, which is 10 minutes from where I grew up. And so immediately I'm thinking, I've got a year to think about this. I'm going to be playing in front of my friends and family at a course I played a fair bit growing up. You just couldn't have scripted it any better, and for that to have been my first big win was something I'll always remember.
Did it feel almost out of body?
Yeah, I think that when you're doing it, you're so focused and locked in what you are doing, what's right in front of you, the shot at hand, that once you get past that and you put your head down on the pillow that night, you think to yourself, oh man, like what have I done? And I've had a few of those moments through my career where you're so locked in at times that you're not thinking about what it means to you and the accomplishment that you've just achieved. You're just so focused on the task, and then you get a chance to step out of that arena, catch a breath, and you go, wow, that was pretty cool.
I imagine taking a step back from it maybe helps you look at it with a different perspective and maybe with a new fondness. But then you went back the next year at the Canadian Amateur Championship in 2012 and you won again. Tell us a little bit about that transition and what that second victory meant to you in terms of moving up.
Yeah, the second win was big. The first time you're not sure if you can do it. The second time you've already done it, so the confidence is high. You know that you can win that tournament and beat that field. And I came into that week thinking that I was one of the shortlisted guys that had a great chance to win that event. And I knew if I did the things I was, supposed to do and took care of my business, I'd have a chance to win come down the last, few holes. And, it worked out well for me that week, and went back to back and just validated a lot of the hard work I was doing. And again, cemented that place for me amongst the top Canadian amateurs in the country and top amateurs in the world.
Now, I don't fully grasp the pathway to professional golf. I get how one goes from minor hockey to the dub or the Q and then gets drafted and ends up in the NHL. But the pathway to becoming a professional golfer is quite varied from what I understand. For the listeners and myself, how does one become a pro golfer?
Yes, it is a much different process than you would see for other sports. There's no draft. There's no declaring for the draft. Really, it comes down to your own personal decision. What you decide you want to do, and say you competed at 4 years of NCAA university and you felt like your game was good enough to go to the next level and play professionally, you would just find a professional tournament to play in, probably a mini tour event, some sort of minor league tour, and you would go pay your entry to play. Say you finished third that week and they wrote you a check and you deposited that check, well, now you're a professional golfer.
No way.
It's very strange. Really, it comes down to the fact that you have now decided that you're going to accept money to play golf. And once you start accepting money to play golf, you are a professional golfer. So it's really as simple as that. It's a very unique and interesting way into a professional sport. There's just not really many barriers. The one thing I would say, though, is that you do need a fair bit of support and backing to make that dream a reality in the beginning. And I was fortunate enough to have that with a lot of generous people around me, and wouldn't be where I am today without that funding to start and get yourself going.
I had no idea that I was a professional golfer because I will take anybody's cash to golf. I ain't going to win any money, but I'll take whatever they'll give me to play. I'll do that gladly.
So you're accepting, you're just not winning.
Yeah, that's right. I'm accepting. Now that you're on the PGA Tour, is there a course or a tournament that you look forward to playing each and every year?
That's a toss-up for me between, obviously, Augusta National is a place that you want to be every April. Kind of goes without saying. And then the other one I would say would be the RBC Canadian Open. It's just, being a Canadian, it feels like it's our major championship. And 1 week of the year we feel like rock stars. We feel like those guys that everyone wants a piece of, and it's really cool to be a part of that during that week and to feel that fan support from the fans in Canada.
Where is this year's RBC Canadian Open?
It is at St. George's in Toronto, so I am hopeful that we'll be there in June, and just hold my breath and cross all my fingers and toes that we'll be there.
Has it been back to St. George's since the 2010?
It has not. Nope, this is the first time since 2010.
Because I played in that Mike Weir Amateur Classic that year. So I don't know how old you were in 2010, but I played St. George's and I got a golf bag, and my first glimmer into what you guys experience walking down the concourse of people. And this would have been like 12 people, not 1,200 watching you tee off on a hole, and I was racked with nerves. Is there, once you get to the pros, still that sense of pressure to perform?
I think when you first start out, there's a bit of, that uncertainty and playing in front of people, a bit of uneasiness. But the more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it. And now, being year 5 on the PGA Tour for me, it's something that I'm quite accustomed to and can quite enjoy. And we've definitely missed that the last year or so with COVID. But hopefully we'll have those fans back soon, and we'll be back to hearing some of those roars.
Being on the circuit means that you guys are on the road, obviously, and now you're part of the PGA bubble. Tell us about that experience and maybe how it differs from some of the other professional sports bubbles that we're seeing out there.
I think golf is lucky in that our bubble is not as restrictive, I guess, as some other sports. I know basketball and hockey, they had, one or two sites, and it was, once you're in the bubble, you're not leaving the bubble. And what's nice is that with golf, we're still able to move around, to go home, and to go back on the road, and have that flexibility there. But it does come down to a lot of responsibility amongst the players and doing the right things away from tournaments, not eating at restaurants, and just trying to limit the exposure you have to people. It's been great to be on the course. We feel very grateful to be doing what we're doing amongst all this uncertainty. But we definitely look forward to getting back to normal here, hopefully soon.
After playing around on tour, Mackenzie, what's it like? Do the golfers get together? Do they hang out? Do you guys go and put your credit cards in the hat and figure out who's going to pay for dinner?
So I'll take you back to a time pre-COVID where this would be a lot easier to describe what's normal and what's routine for us on tour. And I would say that there are some cliques and there's certain groups that like to hang out routinely. And one of those cliques would be the Canadian clique. You'd be proud to know that we definitely all stick together and do a lot of hanging out and having dinners. So definitely some Canadian pride there, and just I think all of us get along great. So that's been fun. And now that a few of the other Canadian guys have young kids as well, like myself, it's been a lot of fun to have our kids mixing up together and playing, and just a bunch of great guys. So it's been fun to get to know those guys over the years, and hopefully we'll be able to rack up a bunch of wins amongst us all.
Well, I see that happening for all of you too. Now back to what we're dealing with here, that is the pandemic. Your mom is a nurse, and obviously she's working on the front lines as a nurse these days. How is she doing, first of all, and how proud of her are you for this selfless attitude that she has towards helping Canadians?
Yeah, thanks for asking. My mom is doing great, and she's been on the front lines the entire time with this pandemic and trying to get things under control. But the amazing thing about nurses and my mom and all the frontline workers is that they don't ask for any extra credit. They don't complain. They don't make it any more than it is. They're just them going to do their job, and it's the selflessness of those healthcare workers that allows us to do what we do. And I think it's important that we do our task and stay home when we can, and distance ourselves from other people and not have too many large gatherings. And if we do those things, then we take a lot of the work and load off of those healthcare workers that are doing a tremendous job of keeping us healthy right now. And my mom is a rock star, and very, very, very proud of what she's been able to do these last months. And but I'm typically proud of her all the time, but definitely even more so during this pandemic.
Well, good opportunity for us to just take a beat and send some good vibes and energy towards all of those frontline workers that we have a debt of gratitude that, like you said, give of themselves selflessly. So whoosh, flowers to all of them.
Yeah, love it.
When you get back to Ontario, what is your favorite local course to play? I think it goes without saying that it has to be your namesake, no?
That one's definitely up there. There's so many great golf courses in Canada. Love being back home. I just breathe in the air and I feel like I'm home. And I would say it's probably Dundas Valley. I love playing Hamilton Golf and Country Club as well. But Dundas Valley for me, going back to a place where I grew up, so many fond memories, the people that I've come to know growing up, that's probably number one for me.
Is there a course in Canada that always challenges you regardless of the day?
Yeah, the National in Toronto is one of those courses that no matter your skill level and no matter how good you are, always provides a great challenge. And it's a golf course that is ready to host a tour event tomorrow if the call was made. So it's an awesome, unbelievable place, and one of the hardest courses I've ever played. So just a really cool place, and looking forward to getting back there soon.
I read that you were a spectator at the Masters when you were 18 or 19. Can you describe the feeling of what it was like to be there at that time, and then when you finally got back to that tournament, not as a spectator, but as an actual golfer, that transition, did that first experience at 18 or 19 help solidify the vision in your mind's eye?
So that experience, if I'm describing it to someone that hasn't been there, and again, this is just me speaking off the cusp. I've never walked through heaven's doors, but if heaven were on earth for a golfer, it would be Augusta National. And when you walk through those gates and onto the property for the first time, it seems like there's a light beacon shining down on the golf course, and it's unbelievable. It's something like you've never seen before, and TV does not do it justice one bit. And so I remember being there and just feeling so unbelievably grateful to be there, and kind of pinching myself that I was on those grounds. But I did tell myself that I would not go back to that place until I was a player in the Masters, competing. And so when I went back there again, I would have been, it was probably 7 or 8 years later after that first time. And it's just such an unbelievable experience to be walking onto that property again, but knowing that I was going to be competing alongside the world's best and trying to win a green jacket. And just unbelievable to think about where I was, back then, and to be walking through the gates again as a player. Couldn't have imagined it happening how it did. And again, looking forward to going back there again this year.
The way you describe it, I feel I need to share. I was at the '06 games, and I got to watch Duff Gibson, Jeff Payne, Melissa Hollingsworth win a medal of each color in the sport that I wanted to compete in as a skeleton athlete. I admired their medals from afar, but I didn't even brush up against them. I didn't want the first Olympic medal that I ever touched to be someone else's. I wanted to be one that I earned. But watching them achieve what I was hoping to do in 4 years' time in Vancouver allowed me to see it so vividly in my mind's eye. And I knew that having watched them do it, like you watching Mike Weir compete and win at the Masters,
Yep,
was enough of a compelling moment for me to embody it with every fiber of my being, knowing that it was possible. I can see you at Augusta, the way that you feel about the place, the way you talk about it. Mackenzie, you will achieve that dream for yourself. I know it. And looking back on your tournaments that you've played in, what separates the good days from the bad ones? Do you have a secret?
I think the good days and the bad days are separated by attitude and the way you're able to deal with the adversity that you're bound to face on the golf course. I mean, no matter what you're doing, and no matter where you are in life, no matter what your profession, you will face adversity. You will face things that you were not expected. And I think it's the way that you deal with those things that dictates the kind of success that you're going to have. And for me on a golf course, that's no different. If I get a bad lie, if I get a bad bounce, if I get a bad break, putt lips out, all those things I have no control over. So if I choose to accept those things with open arms and just say, you know what, this is just what I've been dealt, and I'm going to go deal with it the best I can. If I do that on a regular basis, then I know I'm going to have a great day. I know I'm going to have success long term. I think in life, if that same theory is applied, just again trying to go through it with the best possible attitude you can, keep perspective, and learn to accept whatever happens to you and do the best you can with it.
Brother, that's great advice. The one thing that we have control over in our lives, our attitude.
I agree.
In 2020, my friend, you went from 297th in the world to now 50th. What was that season like for you? And that's a meteoric rise in world standings. How does that feel?
Yeah, it was a tremendous year, a really fun year. It's one thing to compete, but when you're doing it at a very high level and it's going well, it's obviously more fun than when you're not doing it well. And I've been through both, and last year was a lot of fun. It was fun to compete and try to win tournaments. I had a few really close calls, and that just makes me a little bit more hungry this year. I've tasted it, been there very close the last 8-9 months, and you want to get back on that podium and be the one holding that trophy. So unbelievable year, but I think for me it's just the starting point, the stepping stone to bigger things.
Well, I can tell you how much fun it was as a fellow Canadian to watch those results of yours being posted week after week and seeing the success that you had out there. That was a pretty wild ride to experience vicariously through you. Even though golf was popular before the pandemic hit, it's obviously skyrocketed in popularity just due to the fact that we can play it while being respectfully socially distanced, and when I'm playing, wildly socially distanced because I'm in the bush looking for my ball. Do you think that this surge in popularity is going to stick when, I guess, perhaps the pandemic goes away?
Well, that's good to know that you're a very socially conscious guy to hit your ball in the trees. That's very nice.
Taking one
you.
for the team.
So I think that it's amazing what golf has become these last 8-9 months, and it's been an outlet for a lot of people to get away from the pandemic and get outside, do things with some friends in a way that is safe and still socially responsible. It's really cool to see. I love that people are getting into golf, and the more people that are in golf, the better. It makes the game healthy and strong, and I hope that once the pandemic is over and that we're back to normal things, that those people that started playing golf continue to play golf, and they bring more friends along with them as well.
For people listening right now who want to take a golf trip somewhere in Canada, where would you recommend and why?
The one experience I've had that I think every golfer in Canada should have is the Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs out in Nova Scotia. It's a really breathtaking property. You kind of feel like you're transported into Ireland. You feel like you're off the coast of Ireland there with the cliffs, and you get a little bit of the weather coming off the ocean, and but you wait 10 minutes, then the sun pops out, and you feel like you're just bathing in sunshine, and it's just a place that doesn't feel like Canada, but obviously you're still in Canada, and it's the best of both worlds, feeling like you're kind of transported somewhere else, but still being in Canada, and the scenery there, the golf courses are unbelievable. Something that you would not see ordinarily in Canada, just the stunning scenery, the cliffs. So I would recommend there for sure. It's something that when I went, I was blown away by, and I've been to a lot of really cool places. So if that testimonial means anything to anybody, then I definitely recommend going and checking it out for sure.
I'll vouch for you on that one, brother. I've done the Cabot Trail, never played the course, but seen it, and I can tell you that everything you've described is 100% accurate. It is otherworldly. Now, when we finally get to travel again, you mentioned that you have a great deal of desire to seek out some courses and some challenges here in Canada. Where's one place that you're dying to play?
I would love to go to Banff and play some of the courses there. I want to bring my family and spend some time there and just explore, play a bit of golf, and just kind of see what that town has to offer. I've been there very briefly and was blown away by what's there, and just looking around and seeing all that expansive scenery and the trees and the lakes and the mountains. It's just, there's so many cool things that Banff has to offer, and I've never really got to experience it fully and for the appropriate amount of time. So when COVID is behind us and those restrictions are lifted, then that's somewhere I definitely have on my list of places to go.
So this show, it's called The Northern Take, and this is the part of the show where we get your take on all things Canadian. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Some rapid fire questions. We'll do 5 or 6 of them here. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, Mackenzie. The one Canadian thing that you can't live without.
My Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I'm a Leafs fan. One place in Canada that everyone should visit.
Ooh, on the spot, let's go Victoria.
Yeah. Your favorite Canadian golf course.
Dundas Valley.
Your favorite Canadian golfer.
Mike Weir.
A Canadian athlete that you look up to from any sport.
I'm going to go with Mike Weir again. I look up to a lot of the Canadian athletes, but I'm going to go with Mike Weir again. He's the closest guy to what I'm doing, so I've spent a lot of time looking up to him.
Doubling down on the MW. Now, and finally, what makes you proudest to be called Canadian?
The people. The people in Canada, I just feel like are great. Top-notch people, really respectful, fun people, and I miss being in Canada. I know I have a great home here as well, but that's definitely one thing that makes me proud to be Canadian is the people.
No place is any better than the people that call it home, and the people here in Canada, man, we're just the best. We have the best folks to call our fellow countrymen in the entire world. And I'm glad that I get to call you a fellow countryman, Mackenzie Hughes. It's been a real pleasure listening to your insights about your incredible golf career, and your stories about travel and this country have inspired all of us to follow our passion, to believe, to see it in our mind's eye, what we want to create and manifest in our lives. And so thank you for that, Mackenzie.
Yeah, I love it. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Look forward to it, brother. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Northern Take. I'm John Montgomery, and thanks so much for taking your time to journey with us.